Have you ever wondered what the future of the music business is really going to look like? I know there's a lot of different views. There's this dystopian view that AI is going to take over everything and we're going to lose our humanity. And then there's the utopian view where AI is going to solve all of our problems and we're literally never going to have any more problems because machines will take care of it. Well, what if the reality was a little bit more in the middle, right? What if it wasn't really either one of those perspectives, but something in the middle, but we have to learn how to adapt to that. Like everyone tells us, we need to adapt to the new world, we need to adapt to these new technologies and figure out how to move forward. But if we don't know what we're moving forward into, people are going to be very, very confused as to why they should adapt at all in the first place, what's the point, or if they're getting involved in something that maybe is negative to them. They really need to understand the truth. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down what I think the real, actual, up the gut middle of the future is going to look like with AI and how musicians can survive, how we can thrive, how we can actually use this technology and strategies that are actually from the past to help us accelerate our progress into the future. It's really, really cool. So stay locked in. This is going to be a great video for you guys. So the first thing that we need to understand is something called the Matthew Principle. So I think the reality that's a little bit more stark that people need to take into consideration is that adapting or not adapting is the difference between the Matthew Principle, which is to those who have many, much more will be given and required, and to those who have few, much will be taken. And the whole idea behind that is the gaps are going to widen, right? People think, oh, there's a big wealth gap right now, and there's a big gap, and there's a big gap. Listen, there is. But if you think this is a gap compared to what's going to happen, you're missing a lot here. So I think what's really going to happen is the artists who are able to see what this technology can do for them are going to accelerate past most people who are hesitant to use this, because what we're looking at is kind of independence and decentralization versus dependence and centralization. Because what we're looking for, I see a lot of musicians that are looking for the centralization answer. They're looking for this one big mega company, Spotify, to just please give us like the equivalent of artists' universal basic income. And what they're really hoping, like a lot of artists think that they can just hand wave away the problems of what they're trying to ask of Spotify, because they're asking this one centralized company to have total control basically over their finances, except we should be able to tell them what to do, right? We should be able to tell them, hey, you should pay us 1 cent a stream. But that's usually not what happens when you give into a centralized system, okay? Now, here's the thing. I'm not completely anti-Spotify because this is a one-stop shop that most consumers around the world use as their Google of music, so to speak. And so if you're on that, you have an advantage over the people that are not on that. I want you just to think of things in a microcosm of other things that you've probably seen in your lifetime to expect what we're going to see in the future. For example, look at the musicians who hesitated to use the internet as a form of promotion. Think about that for a second. There was a time when the internet was a new technology and people were saying, dude, we're going to start promoting our stuff on the internet. And people were going, that's stupid. How are you ever going to build a real connection? Real connections are made at shows, man. You need to make sure people can, what are they going to buy your album online? People don't buy things online. They don't put their credit card into a random website. This is how people thought back in the day. They're like, you don't just put your credit card on some website. That could go to some hacker or something. People were very, very cautious in the early development of the internet of putting their credit card information online. And honestly, with what technology we have now, it's kind of an understandable concern. But nowadays, we buy things online through websites all the time. There's standardized payment merchants and things like that, like Stripe or Square or Shopify and all these different things, right? So you look at that, and there were musicians who were hesitant to start using MySpace, for example, or Facebook when it very, very, very first came out. So we're in the mid-2000s, let's call it. The musicians who were utilizing MySpace were the ones who were getting the fans. And the ones who were like, I'm not going to do that whole MySpace thing, they just sat around and were in the underground and weren't as well known and eventually fizzled out because you don't know who they are today. And then the same thing happened when social media really became social media. There were people that are like, okay, now everyone's on the internet, so I'm going to start like promoting on Instagram. And some people are like, I'm not going to post on Instagram. I don't like the whole idea behind people just taking pictures of themselves all the time. It's like, okay, cool. But then guess what happens? Those people get left in the dust. And the people who are actually using the platform to promote their music got the people. And then you had TikTok, which was originally called like band.ly or music.ly, excuse me, and eventually became TikTok, which it was originally based around music. People don't think about this. TikTok's original form was originally around music. And then they were like, well, let's apply it to everything and let's call it TikTok. And then poof, it just exploded. Absolutely exploded. And then there was, still to this day, there are musicians who are like, I wonder if I should get on TikTok. I'm like, way to have a thought 5.5 years too late. You know what I'm saying? Like, commendable to the musicians who at least, you know, there's a saying, the best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago, but the next best time is right now. So for those of you that got started right now, good on you, right? That's commendable that you at least said, you know what, no more waiting, I'm gonna get started, I'm gonna at least create the profile and start posting a video or two there. Good on you. But if you're still sitting there going, I don't know if I should create a TikTok, what are you even doing? Like, where have you been the past almost a half decade now? Like, what are you doing? So you have to understand that, like, as things evolve, the music fan base that we're trying to attract to our music business moves with these technological shifts. And so as things have been moving around, there have been musicians fighting this, like, every technological development since, like, CDs. I mean, I swear there's, oh, you don't want to listen to CDs, you want to listen to it on vinyl. Like, there's still people that resist every bit of technological advancement. And they had a bit of an advantage because the advancements would take place in kind of decade-long periods. So they had a decade to just kind of sit there in their narrative before they really had to make a change. That's not the case anymore. Technological advances happen so exponential and so rapidly that we have to look at this as like, if you don't adapt to what's happening now, you're going to be left behind in a year. And who knows, in the next few years, it might be like, if you don't adapt to what's happening now, you're going to be behind like 6 months, 3 months. Like, it's already happening in AI. So what is happening with artificial intelligence is you have artists that are like, no AI in any context of any part of my music business whatsoever. They're not using it to help them make album covers. They're not using it to help them finish lyrics that they need to finish but have had trouble finishing it. They won't use AI to maybe come up with some unique ideas for lyrical concepts. They don't want to use AI to help maybe mix or master their song because they have no funds to actually get a real engineer, but they want to have their music out there sounding nice. Like, there's all different kinds of ways that AI can be used as opposed to, let me put a prompt in a thing and it just makes my song for me. That is something that is used. I think that will be like a fad. I've mentioned that in the last video. I think that will be a fad, honestly, because the real juice is using AI to enhance your music that you're making, not to make the music for you. And in that same way, you think about it. Think about like plugins. Okay, you're in there, and for those of you that don't know what a plugin is, if you're in your digital audio workstation, you're trying to record a song and you want to add reverb or you want to add some kind of effect, you get a plugin, right? So there's lots of plugins that do cool effects. You know, there's synthesizer plugins and there's ambient plugins, and then there's, you know, stuff that's very technical like EQ and compression. There's all these different things, right? Are those cheating? Because back in the day, there used to be a physical version of that you would have to buy that would cost thousands of dollars, and you would shove it into this giant rack with other gear that was equally as expensive and equally big and bulky that had to be put into this giant rack system. And then you had to connect it via all these little 1/4-inch TRS cables, and you had to, it was a nightmare. But nowadays, you can do what would have taken like a few extra minutes to add like another, you know, track or Neve preset, whatever, into your mixing console. Nowadays, either you go to a studio where that's all set up, or you just pull up your your Didial? That sounds like almost like I'm talking about Diddy. Ooh, look out, everybody. No, your digital audio workstation, you pull that up. Now you can just add plug-in and plug-in and plug-in, and it's digital and it's fast. Is that cheating? Is that like, you're not a real musician if you use plugins? It's like, no one thinks that, right? Well, just in the same way, if you used AI as a plugin to create a synth part, Like that, but like the rest of the song you've played and performed yourself? What exactly is the issue with that? Right? And so what I'm getting at here is I'm just trying to show you a kind of a window into the future of what's possible and what's coming, really, and what the world is going to look like in like the next 5 years. It could be faster than that, but let's give it a little bit of a time horizon, the next 5 to 10 years, right? So you look at this, you're going to have to get on one side of the fence. You're either going to have to get on the side of the fence that says, okay, I'm open to adapting to the new technological landscape and using new mediums to help get my music in front of the people that I need to get them in front of. Or you're going to be the person that says, like, no, I'm going to resist change. I'm going to try to go against the grain and do things hard on purpose. There's an old school direct response copywriter, which is someone who makes advertising. People are like, his name is Gary Halbert. People are like, I'm a genius and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, well, I attribute my genius to my cowardice. He's like, I do not have the balls to sell gain weight pills to fat people. I don't have the gusto to sell, hair loss cream to bald people. Like, what he's getting at there is the magic is in like going with what people desire, right? And I don't mean change your musical style to fit what people desire. What I'm saying is you need to use your music and use AI within your music eventually. I mean, some people want to be purists about it. I understand totally. And that's not a bad thing. I'll talk to you about why that's actually not a bad thing here in a second. But if you're going to adapt to it and use it to your advantage, use it to help you like do things with mixing. Use it to help you do things like, man, I don't know how to do this electronic synth part, and I don't want to take 2 years to learn a complete new instrument and do a new preset. Maybe I could have it create something for me. That's just like the shortcut version of doing MIDI. You didn't actually perform the synth part, you just dragged some blocks around, right? And there's still musicians today who are like, those aren't real musicians. It's like, that's myopic, to be honest with you. It's myopic to say that like only my form of music creation is legitimate. Like there's a marketer out there that I'll talk with every now and then on TikTok named Conan, and he'll be like, that's it. You know what? If you want to be completely original, create your own harmonic series, your own chords, because you can't use any other chords that have been used, or else you're just a no good, derivative copy, right? Which is what we accuse AI of. It just spits out the same chord progressions as these top 5, radio hits right now. It's like, what are you talking about? That's what most musicians do. We only usually have 12 chords to work with, or 7 chords to work with any given key. So it's like we're bound to repeat things. But no, when it comes to like, oh, he didn't really create that. It's like, oh yeah, okay, create your own harmonic series, create your own chords and notes and your own unique tuning system, and don't use any lyrical concepts that have already been used before, and make sure, don't use microphones. Make sure not to do that because that's played out, right? And make sure not to use any MIDI samples, because you see how ridiculous that gets after a second once you truly analyze it? I'm just saying, like an artist and a musician, like there's kind of a difference there a little bit. But the real thing that we need to understand is that if you're an artist, you're creating something. So whether the brush in your hand happens to be a keyboard because you're moving the score around digitally, or you're actually playing an instrument to make the score happen, either way, you're creating something. You're taking something from here and making it happen in real life. So I think we really do need to drop kind of any superiority complex that we have about using AI, because it will ultimately help you unleash your creativity if you're using it the right way. I mean, again, if you're using it just to put in a prompt and create your music for you, then you're not being creative at all. But if you're creating a piece of music and using AI to help push what you're envisioning in your head to be what's actually materialized in real life, that's what we've been using plugins for, and guitar pedals and amps and cables like mics. That's what all that's for, is to take what's in here and make it happen in real life. So if there's a way that you can use a tool to help you create like a trumpet part that you can't perform, or a whatever, and you want to, like, I don't know, just to me, I'm an abundance-minded person, so I think of all the possibilities of artists who were typically like, oh no, I'd have to do X, Y, and Z, or buy X, Y, and Z, but I don't have the money, I don't have the ability to get it, have access to an AI tool that now allows them to make their vision come to life, right? Now, there's a whole issue that we've talked about before about copyright, and how my personal belief is I think that AI music can exist, and at the same time there's like a license that artists can create that these AI companies will purchase either on a one-time fee or a renewable fee that gives the songs, the artist gives the rights to the songs to these AI companies to train on, but not for free. I think that's kind of where I would like to see the future, where legislation makes it where it's kind of a win-win. You know, if AI can make royalties, God help Spotify paying all those royalty bills, by the way. But it's going to have to be one of those things where like, okay, well, we need to get paid too. If you're going to train on our music, and because it's one thing if they don't get paid any royalties. So it's like you trained on my music without my permission, but you can't earn any living from it. I'm kind of okay with that, because that's the real issue, is that you would use my music to create something that enhances your livelihood at my expense, right? But if you can't monetize from it, then But again, that's still to be determined from a legal landscape. We're still in kind of the Wild West when it comes down to this stuff. But I want you to be thinking about, like, there's going to be people who will never use AI in any capacity whatsoever. Do not be one of those people. But if you're one of those people that doesn't want to use AI in the capacity of the creation of your music and art, I totally respect that and understand that. Now, here's the reason I do respect that, because I do think there's going to be the second thing happen in the future of the music business, which is this is a pre-existing term, but I'm going to redefine it to the DAX definition of what I mean by that. So the term is artificial scarcity. Now, when most people hear artificial scarcity, they think of somebody lying or misleading somebody about the actual scarcity of an item. Oh, we've only got 10 of these left, when really you have like 100. That can be considered, artificial scarcity and fake scarcity, and I don't recommend you do that whatsoever. What I'm talking about, artificial scarcity. Go with me, this is going to be kind of interesting. We have already an inflated supply of music. Like, as it sits with, now that AI is coming into the picture, let's just step back 2 or 3 years before AI music hit the scene. There was still way more music than people on Earth could ever listen to in any given time period, right? Just no way it's possible, right? So then with the introduction of AI, the ability to put music out is going to increase to levels like we've never seen. We're like, wow, there's like over 100 million songs on Spotify, and only like less than 90% of them ever get any listens, right? Oh, it's going to get way worse than that, because there's going to be so much AI slop music out there that's not getting any views or anything because it's just crap slop AI music. That's going to, like, the supply that we're about to see is about to hit levels that are just absolutely unprecedented, right? Unless Spotify starts putting like restrictions on who can upload or how much you can upload and things like that, or their system and server is going to crash, right? Like, that's just, we got to look out for that in the future. So because that's going to happen, this might be, people were like, that's it, we're going to get flooded out. I've heard that perspective a lot. We're just going to get flooded out. All the artificial stuff is going to take up everyone's listening, and then the real stuff that's made by humans is just going to fall by the wayside. I think that's too pessimistic. But what most of those people think the alternative should be will not happen either. So what I mean is, people are so pessimistic. They're like, oh no, the artificial intelligence is going to beat me. How can I beat a machine at art? And I'm like, do you hear yourself? Did you just ask, as a human being, the most creative creature in the known universe, how am I ever going to compete with a machine on the thing it literally cannot possess? Oh, I don't know. Just be a human? I don't know. So what I think you need to say is, like, people will start to sense when the music is too perfect, right? When the music gets too perfect, there are no human flaws. And people may say, like, well, Dax, pop music nowadays, people like pop music and it doesn't have any flaws. It does, but there's a lot of stuff. There's like beat correction and audio, pitch correction with voices and putting things to the grid. And like, yeah, there is a lot of that there, but there is still human elements to it. There's a human performing it. And even if you autocorrect some notes, there's things that are human about the performance. And so that stuff is you're going to notice that the notes are there, the melodies are there, there's a voice there, but there's something missing. Humans are intelligent. If we have, if you're an evolution person, think about the uncanny valley. How could we have developed that if we did not encounter enough things that looked close enough to humans but weren't humans, that we had to develop that intuition. Just a little thought there. But that's going to happen. The uncanny valley of sound, the uncanny valley of music will start to occur, where people will hear music and they will start to have this gut feeling. This isn't made by, this is kind of, I don't know. So in the same way that most people, who are advertisers who are using AI to write their advertising copy, most people don't want to read that because it clearly sounds like it's written by a machine. And once someone knows it's written by a machine, they don't want to read it because they know you didn't write it and there was no thought behind it except, zeros and ones on a computer. So what that means is with music, people are going to have that same intuition where once they understand this is made by AI, there's going to be this part of them that's like, oh, a human didn't really make this. So this isn't like a true song that was made by musicians. This is like a computer, what their idea of a song is. Oh, okay. There's going to be that uncanny valley for consumers. So I think that's on the positive side. On the kind of negative side, as a consequence, music will not become more valuable as a commodity. I don't think because people are going to recognize that there's more artificial music out there that therefore they will be willing to pay $17 for your CD. I just don't think that's going to happen. So what's going to happen? Music will go on the path that it's on, and that's just supply and demand. That's just the path that music is on right now as a commodity. It's way more supply, too few demand. What does that do to the price? Takes it all the way down to the bottom. So music will become less and less and less and less valuable as a commodity. But human-made music, from a marketing perspective, will have an increased value because of this artificial scarcity. When you look at how much human music will still be out there, it will still be hundreds of millions of songs made by humans putting it out there. But there will still be exponentially more AI music than that. So from the consumer's perspective, it's relativity. They look at something and they say, wow, there's 1 trillion AI songs and 1 billion human-made songs. If you really understand how big 1 trillion is versus 1 billion, you go, wow, 1 billion seems really small, even though it's 1 billion. You know what I'm saying? 1 billion is huge unto itself, but compared to 1 trillion, we're not even the same universe. Samuel Jackson, this ain't even the same league. This ain't even the same sport. You know what I'm saying? It's not even close, right? So when there is, I'm just calling it right now, when there is trillions of songs made by AI and 1 billion or so songs made by humans, that relativity will kick in and people will go, man, comparatively, there's not as much human music out there. What is it, 1 billion out of 100 trillion? You know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, wow, it's so hard to find human-made music, even though there's 1 billion songs of, you know what I'm saying? So you'll go into that world with hopefully a bit of confidence, knowing that even if you have music that has a section in it that was made by AI, if a good percentage of the song is made by you and performed by you, playing the instruments, whether on a keyboard on a laptop or keyboard on a synthesizer, it doesn't matter. You're performing it and you're making something. People will be like, oh, that's cool. It's human-made music. And then how can they verify it? You can play live. What? How else can they verify it? Oh, I don't know. Maybe live streams. Maybe there's other ways, in-person experiences that we can create that not only verify that we are, in fact, the people that wrote this song and can perform it on a live basis, but look, it's a real person. Oh my gosh. It's not just, oh, they can actually play the music. It's oh, that's actually a band. It's a real artist or whatever the AI, they think it may be AI, but it's not AI, right? So I think that leads us to the third thing, which is the direct response revolution is going to have to come for musicians. I really don't see any other way around it, where musicians will be in a position where there will be no way to monetize the music itself. Sure, there may still be royalties, but they'll be like they are now, a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of your overall revenue, right? I had a video about Bandcamp and stuff. People were like, I made more on Bandcamp, because I kind of crapped on Bandcamp a little bit because I think Stripe and Square are better. And they're like, oh yeah, well, I made more money on Bandcamp than I ever did with Spotify. I'm like, yes. Still think Stripe is better because you could do the exact same thing, because the whole idea is that by selling any 10 or 20 or $100 item or bundle, you've probably made more than you've made on streaming, most likely, if you're in the beginning stages. So that's very easy to do. But what's the real principle there? What's the real principle of Bandcamp and Stripe and Square and all this kind of stuff? Direct to consumer, okay? So instead of us sitting here hoping and praying that the Spotify algorithms are good to us, what we're going to have to do is go direct to the consumer. We're going to have to find out who those people are that are our ideal fans, and then we have to figure out how can I create content, advertising that gets in front of them and gets them into my world. And when I say into my world, I mean like into your email list, onto your text SMS list, into your fan club, whatever. Like get them into your world so that they know about what you have going on. You can update them regularly. If you're beholden to algorithms to get that information out to your audience, you're going to have a hard time getting out to your audience. I'm just going to say that. You could have 1 million followers. You could post it out. It ain't getting to more than 50,000, right? And again, 50,000 compared to 1 million, it's a whole different game, right? Now, we're going to live in a world where music will still basically just be marketing. Music, right now, I believe it is, and it has been for a while. Music is marketing because marketing is what builds a bond to a business. You, right? You're a business. So if you want to build that bond to your business, you have to have marketing. And what is the best marketing for a musician to build a bond with them? The music, right? Cool, fun content can help get awareness, but the bond is created with the music, okay? And then once the bond is created, now when we start doing these direct-to-consumer strategies, that bond is there to help reinforce the relationship so they will actually buy, as opposed to, I don't really, maybe, right? So we have to actually build that marketing up to a place where they're consuming it regularly, they're listening to the music regularly, and then when we reach out to them, they're like, hey, here's a cool way to support. Here's a cool way to do X, Y, and Z. They have a way to do that. Now, what do we create? I have a fun little phrase that confuses a lot of people, which is experience trumps experience. And what that means is creating an experience that is immersible and can kind of take, just to be like kind of metaphorical about it, just take the senses of your fan, right? You're at a live show, right? They're immersed in it. They're hearing you, they're seeing you, their feet are on the ground, they're probably bumping into some people, right? There's probably some smells in the air, hopefully positive. Like their entire 5 senses are engulfed in an experience about the music, right? So that kind of experience will trump how experienced and skilled you are. I really do think that, because there will be musicians who are less skilled, less experienced, that create better experiences that fans want to attend. And think about why a lot of people attend musicians that us, good musicians that, pop music's not good, that's all trash. I write good music. Well, it's like, why would they listen to that trash music over your music then? Probably because of the marketing and the experience, right? The experience someone gets when they go to, this is kind of a bad example in light of recent documentaries like Astroworld. That's an experience. Granted, I would not ever go to Astroworld. I don't think that was a very positive experience. But, for example, it's an immersive experience. Can you see why someone would be attracted to attend something like that versus that local music festival that's playing in that weird dive bar that no one likes to go to because it smells like cigarettes? Like, you can see why someone's like, I'd rather probably go to this one where I have a risk of being trampled. It's just because it's the experience is different, right? And you may go to that dive bar and there might be musicians there who are shredding and doing crazy stuff acrobatically. They're like the greatest musicians you've ever seen. But nobody wants to be there because the experience is off. So whether it's online with your content, whether it's in your email list, whether it's in your fan club, whether it's at your merch store, at your merch table, while you're on stage, you need to be thinking about experience. You need to be thinking about fan experience. How is the fan going through, I hate to say experience 8 times in a row, but how is the fan experiencing what I'm doing for them, whether it's the show, the merch table, whatever, right? So once you start thinking about those things, you'll start to realize how impactful it is. I know a lot of musicians just kind of have this like, well, if the music's good, it'll sell itself, Like if I don't need to guide anybody, someone came in my comments like, if you try to guide me, then I'm out. I'm like, bro, if you don't think you're guided by experiences and marketing forces, then you're just not perceiving. That's just the truth, right? We are all guided by different influences, whether that's internal or external, okay? So fans, when you're doing this right, will not feel pressured to buy something from you. Buying something from you will be a natural result of enhancing the experience that they're already having with you, right? So you have to create an environment that makes them feel like buying, not, try to make them buy. You see what I'm saying? You have to create an environment that makes them feel like buying. And that's why, in my opinion, where some of my best skills have been utilized throughout my career when I was touring and stuff was the merch table and the show. Using our words on stage and obviously you have to perform your music well, but using your words on stage, using your words at the merch table, setting up the right cues at the merch table, those things are insanely important. And musicians like to well, I don't want to pay attention. I just want everything to flow, dude. I just want everything to kind of flow naturally. It's just going to flow, man. Most people's flow is like entropy. I'm just going to say that if you don't know what I mean. It's like most people's flow is a tendency to chaos and disorder. And so they're just leaning into the flow, man, but really what they're leaning into is disorder and chaos. So I wouldn't recommend always just going with the flow, even if it's a little bit awkward to think about how could I set up my stage show that's maximally influential to my audience. You got to get over it because that's the name of the game from the get-go. To entertain somebody means to basically get them fixated and riveted on you. That's basically what the word to entertain means, is to hold attention and almost at a fixated level. So if you don't think that the psychology is important, then I would just say you're not thinking, right? I've seen plenty of great bands with terrible banter and no sales system, no way of driving people, and guess what happens? Nobody buys their stuff. And then we'll have a set that I think is mediocre because I know what we can do, and I'll miss a note or something or whatever, and I'll be like, oh gosh. And then there'll be people flooding over to our merch table. What's the difference? The difference is not only the music, but the influence behind the music. How many people I've told you that some of you who are dedicated subscribers know this story. I have seen people in real time hear a song, not like it, get a different marketing frame around the same song they've already heard and said that they don't like consciously, and then say that they love the song. Do you see what I'm saying? When I say it's not the experience and I just wrote the most amazing song in the world, I would love to think that that's all you needed to do is just write the best song possible and the marketing will take care of itself. Granted, the marketing becomes easier the better your song is. The selling system becomes easier the better the song is. But it doesn't do everything for you. You have to still have the system, right? You have to have a system to create an experience. And so hopefully you guys understand where the future of this is all going. What we need to be focusing on is creating the best music we can and then creating the best experiences around that. And we need to have those experiences do two things. Enhance the fans' enjoyment while in the experience, but also monetize it in a way that makes it sustainable so that you can keep doing the experience, okay? Now, one thing I will talk about, if you really want to learn in depth of how to set up these systems, I'm holding a workshop August 1st through August 3rd in Norman, Oklahoma. Ticket links are in the description. We're literally going to break down over the course of a weekend how to set up your entire music business systems that actually matter. How do we get the fans? How do we actually monetize the fans? How do we set up those systems? Pay attention to the experience and make them feel like buying by how we send them emails or the offers that we create. So if that's something you're interested in, head to the link in the description. Go check it out. Get your tickets. It's coming right around the corner. There's only a few more weeks left, so make sure to get that. There's limited tickets. If you also got some value from this video and you want to see more, hit the subscribe button, the like button, notification bell, all that kind of good YouTube-y stuff. And I look forward to seeing you guys on another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.